Hello everyone, welcome back to Tech with Sanurag and welcome to another video in our SAP UI5 full course. So far in this course, we have covered the SAP UI5 roadmap, understood the architecture and MVC pattern, and configured our development environment using SAP Business Application Studio. Today, we are finally going to build our first SAP UI5 application. But let me tell you one thing. This is not going to be another Hello World video where we will simply generate a project and finish the session. Instead, we will understand what actually gets created, why those files exist, and how every UI5 project is organized. By the end of this video, you will not only have your first application running successfully, but you will also understood the standard project structure used in almost every SAP UI5 project. Whether you are learning UI5 for the first time, preparing for the interviews, or planning to work on real-time implementation project, this knowledge is absolutely essential. So, without wasting any time, let's get started. I am currently inside SAP Business Application Studio, where we completed the setup in our previous video. Now, our goal is simple. We are going to create a brand new SAP UI5 application from the scratch. So to create a new application, I'm going to click on File menu and from the available option, we will select New Project from the template. Let's wait while it opens the wizard. Okay, so from here, we are selecting the SAP Fiori application generator. Here, it will ask us what type of application we want to create. You will notice multiple options available. Here we have the basic application, custom page, list report page, overview page, analytical list page, form entry object page, and work list page. As a beginner, it is very easy to think, which template should I choose? The answer is simple. For learning SAP UFA fundamental, always start with the basic application template. Why? Because it creates a clean project with only essentials and necessary files. There is no unnecessary business logic, no backend dependency, no complex configuration. It allows us to focus completely on understanding how UFA application works. So, when later in this course, when we start working with the Fury elements and enterprise application, we will explore those other templates as well. For now, we'll keep things simple. So, I will select the basic application and click next. The next screen asks us to configure the data source. You will notice different options available here. Since this is our first application, we don't need any backend connection. We simply want to understand the front-end structure. That is why we will keep data source as none. Just wait a minute. And don't worry if you are wondering how will the application display business data. We will answer that question later in this course when we start working with the auditor service, JSON model, and backend integration. For today's session, our focus is only on understanding the project itself. So we'll keep the no data source selected and click next. Here, we will keep the entity name as it is. Now, we need to enter some basic information about our application. You will find fields like module name, application title, application namespace, and description. So let's understand what each of these means. First, we have the module name. Think of this as a technical identity of your application. SAP uses this internally throughout the project. For demonstration purpose, I am entering a simple name related to the hello world. So if you see here, module name cannot contain any capital letters. No, just change this to. But you can choose any meaningful name when you are creating your own project. In the enterprise projects, organizations usually follow their own naming standards. Our objective is to simply understand the project creation process. Okay. Next comes the application title. This is the name that user generally see when they launch the application. Unlike the module name, this is user friendly. For example, I am entering Hello World here. Simple and easy to understand. Later, when we develop the business application, this could be something like employee management, purchase approval, or any business specific application name. Now, let's talk about the application namespace. The namespace helps uniquely identify your application. Namespace helps organize application properly. For this example, we will simply use the basic namespace com.tws. Finally, we have the description. This is a completely optional. Still, it's good practice to write the short description explaining the purpose of your application. It helps other developer understand the project quickly. For the time being, we will maintain Hello World application. Next, you will notice SAP UI5 version. We will simply keep the version provided by the project template. As you gain more experience, you will learn when to choose the specific versions depending on the project requirement. For now, we will continue with the default selection. Okay, other configuration will keep as it is. As of now, we do not need those. So apart from that, everything looks good. Let's click on the finish. Now, Business Application Studio start generating the project. This usually takes a second. During this time, Pass is creating the entire project structure for us. Everything is generated automatically, following SAP standard project layout. Great. Now, our project has been created successfully. You will notice that several folders and files appeared inside the Project Explorer. At first glance, this might look little overwhelming, especially if you are saying SAP UI5 project for the very first time. You might be wondering, do I need to learn every folder today? The answer is no. The goal of today's session is to simply understand the purpose of each folder at a high level. As we progress through this course, we will revisit each folder multiple times while building the real application. So don't try to memorize everything immediately. Instead, focus on understanding why each folder exists. That will make learning much easier. So let's first go with our node.models. This folder contains all the external libraries and packages required by your application. If you previously worked with the JavaScript, React, Angular, or Node.js, this folder might already look familiar. One important thing to remember is that developers usually don't edit anything inside this folder. These files are managed automatically whenever the package are installed or updated. So we will leave this folder untouched. Now, let's look at the package.json. This is one of the standard files used in the Node.js based projects. It contains information about the projects, including its name, version, dependency, and the scripts. Think of this file as a project information card. Whenever additional libraries are installed, they usually listed here. As we move forward in this code, you may occasionally see these files being updated whenever we add new development tool or the packages. For now, there is no need to understand every line inside it. Just know that it is responsible for managing the project dependency. Next, you will notice UI5 YML file. This file contains configuration used by the UI5 tooling. Whenever we run or build application locally, UI5 tooling reads this configuration. It helps define how application should be served during development. Again, as a beginner, we won't modify this file today. Later in the advanced topics, we will explore UI5 tooling in more detail. Now, we have reached the most important folder in this project, the web app folder. If there is only one folder you should remember from today's session, it's this one. Everything related to your SAP UI5 application lives here, whether it's your views, controller, models, CSS, localization files, configuration, almost everything you will build throughout this code will be inside web app folder. Whenever you join new SAP UI5 project, this is usually the first folder you will start exploring. So let's go one by one. The first folder inside web app is controller. Let me close this first so we'll have the proper idea. Controller contains the application business logic. Think of the controller as the brain of your application. Whenever user clicks a button, submits a form, navigates to another page, or searches for the data, or even perform any certain action, the controller decides what should happen next. Here's a simple real world example. Imagine you are building an employee management application. The user clicks a save button. The button itself visible on the screen. But what actually happens after clicking? Should the data be validated? Should it be saved to the backend? Should a success message appear? All that logic is written inside a controller. Throughout this course, we will spend significant amount of time working with the controller because they are responsible for handling user interaction. Next, we have CSS folder. As the name suggests, this folder contains custom cascading style sheets. SAP already provides beautiful themes and standard controls. However, there are situations where business requires custom branding or styling. For example, adding custom colors. That's when custom CSS comes into the play. In many projects, developers usually use very little custom CSS because SAP UI5 already provides excellent built-in styling. Still, it's useful to know where custom styles belong. Later, we have I18 folder. This is one of the most important folder for enterprise application. The term I18 stands for internationalization, and the number 18 represents 18 letters between the letter I and the letter N in the word internationalization. Now, let's understand why this folder exists. Imagine you are building application for the users in India. Everything is currently displayed in English. Later, your company decides to roll out the same application in Germany, France, and Japan. Would you create three separate applications? Of course not. Instead, all user-facing text stored inside the I18 files. Depending on the user's language setting, SAP UI5 automatically displays appropriate translation. So the word say save will become proper naming as per the user's language. The application remains exactly the same. Only the display text change. That's the power of internationalization. Throughout this course, we will always follow the best practice instead of hard coding the text directly into our views. Next comes the model folder. Models are responsible for managing the application data. Right now, you will notice only small number of files here. That's perfectly fine. As a beginner, we haven't connected to any backend yet. Later in this course, we will work with the different types of model. For example, JSON model, OData model, resource model, device model. This model helps transfer the data between the application and the user interface. You don't need to understand them in detail. Just remember the simple idea. Views display the data, model provides the data. And controller connects them. This relation will help become much clearer in the upcoming videos. Next, look at the test folder. Testing is very important part of enterprise application development. No matter how experienced a developer is, every application should be tested before it reaches the end user. SAP UI5 provides a built-in support for different type of testing. Inside this folder, you may find files related to the unit testing or integration testing. This helps developers verify that the application behaves correctly. For example, if someone changes a piece of code, test can immediately tell us whether something was broken. As a beginner, you don't need to understand these files right now. Later in the advanced section of this course, we will briefly discuss UFI testing. For now, simply remember that this folder exists to improve the application quality. Now, let's open the view folder. Views define what user actually sees on the screen. Whenever you create buttons, tables, forms, or charts, you are working inside the view. In SAP UI5 development, XML views are the most widely used approach, and that's exactly what we will be using throughout this entire course. One easy way to remember this is if it is visible on the screen, it's usually defined inside the view. Okay, now let's move to the most important file in the project, that is index.html. Whenever beginner opens SAP UI5 project for the first time, this is the usually first file they will notice. Naturally, many people think this must be where the application is written. Actually, that's not true. The responsibility of index.html is surprisingly small. Its primary job is to start the application. Think about any website you visit. The browser always needs an entry point. For SAP application, that entry point is index.html. When browser opens this file, it loads SAP framework, perform the required bootstrap process, and prepares the application for the execution. It does not contain your business logic. It does not define your user interface. It simply starts everything. So you will notice several lines of code here. Okay. So let's identify the important section. You will notice SAP UFI Bootstrap configuration. This tells the browser which UFI library should be loaded before the application starts. You will also notice that application reference, our component. This allows your SAP UI5 to continue loading the application automatically. Okay. Now, let's open our component.js file. Whenever I join a new SAP UI5 project, this is the one of the files I explore. Why? Because this file tells me how application is initialized. Think of component.js as a project starting point after the framework has finished loading. Whenever application start, SAP FF creates an instance of this component. Here you will notice method called init. During initialization, the parent component called and require models are created. Application routing is initialized. Do not worry if this is a little bit overwhelming. Okay. Just understand what happens conceptually. As your project becomes larger, you may also find additional startup activities. For example, loading user preferences or setting global modules or initializing the user. Everything required before application becomes usable is generally prepared here. So one easy way to remember this is if index.html is the ignition key, then component.js is the engine starting the application. Okay. Now we have reached to the another important file in every SAP application, that is manifest.json. If there is a configuration file you will work throughout your SAP journey, it's this one. Many developer refers to manifest.json as an application blueprint, and that's actually a good way to think about it. Instead of hard coding important settings inside multiple files, SAP keeps them together in a central configuration file. Here, you will notice several sections, and we will understand them gradually throughout this course. Some of the important sections include sap.app. Then we have the sap.ui and sap.ui5. Each section has different responsibility. For example, inside sap.app, you will find information such as application ID, title, description, and application type. Whereas sap.ui5, you will notice configuration related to the models, routing, dependency, root views, libraries, and many other framework settings. Whenever you need new features to your application, there's a good chance we will update manifest.json. So becoming comfortable with this file is extremely valuable. So why this file matters? Let me share a small real world example. Suppose someone asks you to support an existing SAP application developed by another team. You open the project for the first time. Where do you begin? So many experienced developer starts with the manifest.json because within just a few minutes it provides answer to the important questions. Which libraries are being used here? Does the application use routing? Which models are configured? What is the application ID? And which views load first? Instead of searching other files, you can understand the overall application structure by reviewing this single configuration file. That's why it's considered one of the most important file in any UI5 project. At this stage, don't try to memorize every property inside manifest.json or every method inside the component.js. That isn't the goal. The goal is to simply become familiar with these files. As we build more applications throughout this course, you will naturally revisit these files again and again. And every time they will make little more sense. Learning SAP is a journey. Understanding comes through the repeated practice and not memorization. Okay. Now it's time for the most important part. Let's run the application and see everything we have come to the life. Inside SAP Business Application Studio, right click on the project and choose Preview Application. So we will select the Start project. Let's wait for a second. Since it was blocked. And there it is, our very first SAP application. Since we did not make any changes, we are just showing the blank page. Okay, it may look simple, and you might just see the basic page with the title here, "Hello World." But note this. But don't let this simplicity fool you. Okay. Behind this small application, SAP have already performed a lot of work. And let's understand what actually happened. Even though there is much functionality here, this application already follows the standard SAP UFI project architecture. This is the same foundation used in the enterprise application. Whether you are building employee management system application or leave request application, almost every SAP UFI application begin with the structure. Today's application is intentionally simple because before adding business logic, it's important to understand the framework itself. Once the foundation is strong, building complex application becomes much easier. Now, let's connect everything we have learned into one complete picture. Imagine a business user opening your application for the first time. What happens internally? Let's walk through step by step. The very first thing that happens is the browser opens index.html. Remember, this is the entry point of our application. Its responsibility is to bootstrap the SAP UI5 framework. Once the framework is loaded successfully, control moves to Component.js. This is where the application begins its initialization and the init method is executed. During initialization, SAP UI5 prepares everything the application needs before it displays to the user. After that, component.js read the configuration from the manifest.json. This file acts as a application root, correct? From here, SAP if I understand important information such as application ID, application title, required libraries, their modules, routing configuration, root views, dependency. So using this information, framework creates the required models, initialize routing, and load the very first view of application. Once the view is loaded, the corresponding controller is attached automatically. Finally, SAPFA renders the user interface in the browser. And that's the moment when user actually sees the application. Although all these steps happens within just a few seconds, understanding this sequence is extremely valuable. Whenever you face issues during the application startup or debugging, knowing this flow helps you identify where the problem might be. Okay, so at this point, some of you might be wondering, do I really need to understand all this folder before writing code? My answer is absolutely. Let me explain why. Imagine joining a company as a SAP developer. On your very first day, your team lead assigns you an existing application containing hundreds of files. Okay. If you already understand the project structure, you will immediately know where to look. Need to modify the user interface? Go to the view folder. Or need to change the application logic? We will open the controller folder. If we need to update the application text, just look inside the ITIL folder, right? Or need to check the application configuration, we will open manifest.json. Without this basic understanding, navigating a large project can feel overwhelming. That's why today's video is so important. It's not about building a complex application. It's about learning how to navigate every SAP project with confidence. So that's it. Now, before watching the next video, I highly and I really like you to complete a small exercise. Create another UFA application on your own. This time, don't just generate the application. Spend few minutes exploring every folder that we have discussed today. Open the important files again. Try to identify their purpose without referring to this video. The more comfortable you become with the project structure now, the easier your future development will be. Learning happens with practice, not just by watching videos. Congratulations, you have successfully created your first SAP application and more importantly, understood the foundation on which every SAP application is built. From this point onward, every new concept we learn will be built on the project structure you have explored today. So take your time to become familiar with it. It will make rest of your learning journey much smoother. In the next video, we will start working with XML views and understand how to build the user interface using SAP UI5 control. We will begin creating actual screen, add UI controls, and gradually transform this simple application into professional SAP UI5 project. I am excited to continue this journey with you. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking the video, sharing it with others who are learning SAP UI5, and subscribing to Take with Sanurag so you don't miss upcoming video in this complete SAP UI5 course. Thank you so much for watching. This is Tech with Sanurag. I'll see you in the next video. Happy learning.